We are live. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us for Goal Chat Live. I'm Debra Eckerling. I'm the founder of the Deb Method and author of Your Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals. And I'm so excited because today I get to hang out with my friend Pilar Alessandra, and she is the host, founder, etc. of onthepage.tv. So I'll let her introduce herself more, but basically she helps people like get scripts written and get their ideas out of their head onto the page. So kind of like what I do, but more like screenwriter focused. Mm-hmm. And I love because among her other projects, she's an author of the Coffee Break Screenwriter. So I know she also subscribes to the small bits of time, make things a reality philosophy.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself more, and then we're going to talk about creativity. We had such a fun Goal Chat last night. I will put the link in the comments as well. But now it's our turn, and we get to deep dive. So welcome. Okay. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. I'm scared to death to be completely live, but, adventure, right? Got to try
all
new
things. An adventure. Exactly.
Yes. So you asked me to introduce myself a little bit more, and I think that you did a great job of it. Basically, I'm a teacher. I teach screenwriting. I teach TV writing. I help people, as you said, get their ideas out of their head and on the page. I also do private coaching and consult so that people can go from idea to finished product. And it's really what I love to do. And I have a podcast called On the Page and a book or two called The Coffee Break Screenwriter, and The Coffee Break Screenwriter Breaks the Rules. So that's pretty much it. So you nailed it. Yay.
And we've been friends a long time because you interviewed me. We figured this out like 10 years ago on your podcast, and then a couple months ago.
Right.
So if there's
you're both 20.
Easily only 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Love it. And one of the great things, because I'm always going to look on the positive side about this reality we live in, where we can't leave and have normal lives, is we have a little extra downtime and can work on our projects. And even if you just take the time you used to use to commute to work and you put it towards that passion project, whether it's a book or a screenplay or something else as creative, that's like found time. It's like a gold mine, right?
That's a really good point. I think using commuting time is a wonderful way to think about it, because they've got their kids and their jobs. They don't have tons of downtime, right? Because they're still working and they're still taking care of kids, and sometimes you feel like you're busier than ever. But if you think about that time you used to reserve for something that you didn't even like to do, like commuting to work, that is a great half-hour to 1 hour window to reserve for yourself for your creativity. Really good idea, Deb.
Okay, well, let's kind of jump in, and of course we're going to sidetrack because we do that.
Sure.
And it's a great time for creativity, creative projects, basically that thing that you've always wanted to do, but you never got around to doing. And so how do you define creativity?
How do I define creativity? Gosh, I guess it would be following your flights of imagination, even if they seem silly in the moment. Creativity could be, it doesn't have to be writing a screenplay or writing a teleplay or even writing your novel. It could be developing your fantasy business. It could be, as you talk about, setting a new goal for the next year, but to be creative enough to go through all of the possibilities of it and let yourself be extreme, silly. Don't let that inner critic come in. To me, creativity is about just going with whatever comes into your brain and imagination.
I am so with you on that. And even now, I mean, especially people who are juggling kids and life and whatever, you have to be creative.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not just for projects, it's for life. Creativity is now one of the best life skills I think anyone can have right now, because you can't do things the normal.
Right.
You have to put your twist on something. And I think creativity also goes beyond that. I mean, what are the things you can do that are creative? And if you're watching and you want to chime in, please do. But cooking is creative, gardening is creative. There's just like, we had Beth Howard was on last week and we talked about pie, and oh my goodness, you could get totally creative with pie crust.
Oh, she actually makes pie crust.
See, no, she like makes all pies.
I love pies, but I really cheat with the pie crust, I have to be honest with you, because I've also gotten into the whole cooking and baking thing. But pie crust, man, you have to be like a brave soul to really go for that. She's a better woman than I. That's great.
Oh, I think different woman than you. But I'll share the link to that as well, the recap, because actually the bonus goal from last time was to make a pie. So raise your hand if you made a pie. I did not, but I made pizza pie.
A pizza pie. That's, yeah. There you go.
There's always a way to like alter the goals. One of my favorite, back when Write On was a writers group, which was like years ago, and we met in person, I would give a creative exercise, and it could be just like glass or keys or pain, and any of those things can be put in 100 different directions. Maybe not 100, but it's the taking the simple and playing with it and letting it explode.
I wonder how many people right now, if you're there trying to make things work in a way that could only be worked out before with other people or other places, for example, childcare, or entertaining your child. I wonder how many people are coming up with something that would even be an invention, or some kind of like fun pack or something like that actually they can sell later on, or they could market, or they could turn into an online business or something like that. I wonder like what will come out of it. The necessity breeds invention. Isn't that what they say? Something like that.
Yes.
So I think frustration also breeds invention. Like, why don't we have a blank to do this? And if you write down, well, I'm going to come up with the way to do it. And then also if you were writing a story out of it, which is actually sort of more my niche, as you can tell, I clearly don't have the language for that. If you were doing a story for it, it would be, okay, so what will the schools look like in the future? What would it look like if I could teleport a teacher in? What would it look like if we could all become holographs? What would it look like if I just take my kid to a different country, and sort of beam them up into it? That was Genie. And then also beam them up is Star Trek. But either way, it's 100 years old. But the what if
references? Yeah. Generation Xers for the win.
Exactly. But the idea that you take something you are frustrated about and what if it, can really bring you to an interesting story place.
That's it. And you were talking about using it for business development. It's disruption. Mm-hmm. Find out the problem that you are having and fix it so other people have a solution.
Right.
And I actually have 2 clients right now who are doing solutions that will help them, but also others. So part of it is a matter of, okay, what is my pain? And when you solve your pain, you solve it for other people. But I love what you were talking about with future, what do we call it? Future-proofing films. So how people write, I'm totally tangenting. So how do screenwriters write right now for future? Do they have to be like really thinking how we film this for social distance, or are novelists thinking, okay, what is the future going to look like? Do I have to put this in, or what's going on with that?
It's tough, right? I usually with my screenwriters and TV writers don't ask them to think about production because it does get in the way of their creativity. Right. So just like I would say, look, right now you have an unlimited budget. Don't write with budget in mind because it will keep you down. I would probably also say don't write in terms of physical distance with the actors. That really is the job of the people who do production. because that will kind of keep you down. On the other hand, our personal stories and the context of our world have changed. So I would say do bring in what when we go back to production, you can't ignore that this is now a post-COVID society. When we do go back, you can't suddenly, if you're doing this in a contemporary way. Did you hear that airplane coming? It's coming from me. If you're doing this as a contemporary story, and it's going to take place in 2021 or 2022, yes, COVID happened. Everything happened. So you do need to integrate it. So if that means that your dating scene is going to involve going into the restaurant and giving them your COVID results, that you're negative, fine. That's just your new reality of the story. If your dating scene means that nobody can kiss for 2 weeks, well, that's kind of hot, talk about sexual tension, right? So it's okay, and you should be thinking about bringing these things into your story, but they'll only make your stories more interesting because we've never seen anything like that on screen before. So no to the physical distancing issue, and yes to bringing in everything, all the weirdness of the world.
And you could come up with solutions for the world with your creativity in that as well. You don't know. I think that's kind of the beauty of writing, is you get all bets are off and you can do whatever, because your world is the paper and the pen, or the computer and the fingers.
Well, there's so many TV shows that we grew up watching, or movies that we watch, that actually predict the future in really interesting ways. Like, it sometimes makes you think, like, which came first, like that show or the invention, I mean, you could even go back to a cartoon like the Jetsons, right. Again, I'm showing my age. Like, I was like a little kid on Saturday afternoon going, wouldn't it be great if I could like talk to somebody on a screen and I would just see their face at the same time, and now we're all kind of complaining about it. We live in the future. We're using the future. That's sort of cool.
Yeah, we do live in the future.
Yeah.
And the future that we're living in whereas you kind of think you're limited now, in a way you have endless possibilities because you're forced to come up with solutions, be more creative in work, in life, in your writing, etc. So I'm going to jump to the next batch of questions.
Sure.
Do you consider yourself a creative person? I'm going to answer this for me. Yes, I call myself logical creative, because I do like the lines, but once I have the lines, I'm like, okay, that's where you get to go. And so what is your favorite creative activity or pursuit? And you can't say writing.
Okay, that's fine. No.
Were you going to?
No, I wasn't. I was going to say, well, my creativity is my teaching is coming up with, like you said, solutions. So as somebody who, read scripts for years, it was much more interesting to me to say, okay, so there's this issue of clarity, or the writer's intentions aren't coming through, or I'm not feeling the way that character feels. Why not? And how could I create a writer's tool that would help them make it so? And so that's where my creativity goes. It's like, okay, there are some issues that writers hit. What could I come up with that might help them? And literally use the classroom as a way to test that. So for me, that's where my creativity is. And more challenges come up. It never stops when you're involved in something creative. You never sort of land completely on it, because the world changes, writers' needs changes, writers' education changes, and you have to keep developing for them. So that's what I do. That's why I consider myself a creative person, because that's what I do is I teach. I think all teachers are creative people, good teachers. On a social, like on a more relaxed level, I've been teaching myself piano.
Really?
Yeah, since I must have had an inkling of something coming, because on Black Friday, I went out and bought the cheapest digital piano I could find. And I started teaching myself online. And boy, has that come in handy, because when I want to just chill out the whole world, I just sit down and start playing badly. And it's been really fun.
Well, I think you just hit not the badly, but the fun part.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really the essence of creativity, because it should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I think everything should be fun. I think, I think setting goals should be fun. So that's kind of where I put my fun creative juices, because I was, and I've said this before and I'll repeat myself because it's important. I was very happy doing in-person events. And even before my book came out, I've been doing live workshops, podcasts here and there, but I never really fully embraced the workshops. And then March rolled around just a couple months after my book came out, and it's like, okay, everything's going online. The universe wants me to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been speaking at a lot of different places, and it is fun when you're teaching to kind of come up with fun little things that people don't expect. Tomorrow is the half birthday of your goal guide. So of course I'm doing a virtual party. And what does that mean? I mean, for any sort of action or activity, it's going to mean different things to different people. So I love how I kind of put myself in situations where I have no choice but to be creative.
Right. Exactly. It kind of, it forces you to invent. It really does. If you have all the choices in the world, how boring is that? And I think a lot of people also feel paralyzed when there's just too many things. In a way, this has focused a lot of people. It sort of forced you to get up and plan your day and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and I always say that the things that stop people from achieving their goals is they overthink them or they underthink them. And now people actually have time for both.
Right.
So it's really, and I like journaling for brainstorming, because I think the stuff you take out of your head and put on the page, your thoughts get too jumbled if you just let them rest in your head. They're going to have their own party, and they're getting confused, and the noise is going to be really loud. So you really need to take your ideas and look at them so you could figure it out.
That makes a lot of sense. It definitely does.
And I think, well, another thing too is what are, okay, I'm going backwards and forwards again. Yeah. What are some good ways people can incorporate more creativity into their life? Oh, I remember the other question.
Okay.
So we'll go backwards and forwards. Do you think forced creativity is a good thing? Or do you, scheduling time to be creative?
Well, it's interesting. Pages, which is, I'm sorry. Was there a second part to the, sorry.
No, you froze, and I don't want to miss anything important. So can you go back to your answer, please?
No way. I'm hardwired in. I want to let you know I did everything I could to make this as seamless as possible. So I'm sorry if I froze.
Oh, no, it's fine. And sometimes, for me, sometimes there's like a truck.
Okay.
I can't do anything when there's a truck.
Yeah.
But we're good.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, what's the question? Oh my God.
Should people schedule time to be creative, or do they just go with the flow, or what?
Yes. So there used to be a trend that I think is very much like you're talking about right now for morning pages. And the idea was that you get up and you just start to write, and you basically don't take your fingers off the keys, until something comes to you. And I find that if you do that in a focused way for your actual story, that it's not just your personal journaling, but that it's for your actual story, and that you write and write and write and write. I do find that eventually you'll find your answer. So should you force yourself to be creative? Sometimes you should just force yourself to be bad. Let yourself write and write and write and write, and it's going to be terrible. Oh, I hate this. This is so stupid. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my character. Why would she talk that way? And then suddenly it starts to happen. So yeah, force yourself to be kind of crappy for a while, and then and eventually the real creativity will flow. But it should still eventually get you to a place of fun.
Okay, that makes complete sense. me because I believe it's a variation because I'm all for directed journaling, which is essentially you're writing with a purpose. You're writing to like write your way out of a situation, whether it's a problem or a challenge or with your characters. Gosh, it was years ago when I had my little my little screenwriting tangent in my life, and I always thought it was fun when you let your characters talk to each other and you just kind of start, hey, how are you? Oh, not
Mhm.
so great. What's going on? So your characters take on a life of their own anyway. So let them give
Sure.
themselves opportunities, right?
Absolutely. I would even say, going with what you just said, stop with the hey, how are yous. Start with what is that clever line that that character would say right in that moment. What insight would that person give about where he or she is or what's happening, right? So that immediately brings you in. Oh yeah, what would that person say based on their insight and their perspective on what's happening or who they're with? So if you start there, the dialogue that's going to come out of that is going to be even more interesting. It will actually spare you the small talk. Start with their point of view. It may clash. Their different agendas may come out, but that will be an interesting place. And that conversation, which right now you're just doing, let's let them talk to each other, could actually end up in your script as a legit scene.
Oh, so you do the intros in your head
Mm-hmm.
and then you jump into the action. What is this thing going to happen that's going to be the catalyst for something?
Yeah. I mean, imagine that Betty Davis was suddenly in this scene, right? She wouldn't turn around and go, "Oh, how are you?" Blah blah blah. She'd say, "What a dump," right? So starting with a line like that, that character, that Betty Davis like character says,
Mm-hmm.
"What a dump." Okay, that's a good place to start. What would the other character say? You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're not in Kansas anymore. Okay, what a dump. We're not in Kansas anymore. Boom. Okay, now they're in the same conversation. They're going to talk to each other, but they're going to have a different voice and a different point of view.
I love that. Okay, give me another one. What's another good example of how you can really play with your words?
Huh. Well, I would say one thing that I try to get my writers to do in a rewrite process is turn a scene into a set piece. It's a very industry specific term that really means how are you using the set and creating an active, interesting, trailer worthy scene. So when people say to you, I want more comedy set pieces, more action set pieces, and people go, well, I've got a set piece. I've got like a library in a school. And it's like, you know, how are you turning that library into an action moment? Okay. Or that school into a horror show. So what I usually ask people to do, and it's a fun thing to do, is go, okay, so where are you? Okay. What is the event and what's the genre? So let's say, I'm in my bedroom right now. Okay. So I'm in my bedroom and the event is going to be a school graduation. Okay. And the genre is horror. Okay. So how could you have a school graduation in a bedroom in a horror movie? What it does is it allows you to now play within those confines, the place, the event, and the genre, and you can come up with all kinds of interesting things. Which is why we have things like contained thrillers and contained horror movies. When we force people to have less, the creativity is more. So that's what I would say to everybody is like, where are you right now? Okay, what would be the imaginary event? Play with the genre. What could be the cool scene that would translate to set piece for industry?
And given your recent explanation,
Mm-hmm.
we're basically all living in set pieces right
We
now.
are. We are. So how can you turn every corner of where you are into something? And you are bringing the world into contained environments. We are having graduations and weddings and funerals, but in this virtual limbo, what is the best thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? What's the weirdest, scariest, that kind of thing. And that will get your creative juices going again.
Wow, I love that. So you can also like give yourself like a fantasy life. What would you do if, let's say, you could escape your four walls? Or what would you do if you never could?
Absolutely.
And play with the different extremes.
Right. I think it's actually helped people figure out their priorities a lot. You get like these lists from your friends. Like you said, what's the thing you miss most? What is the first thing you would do? And it's so different from what you thought your priorities were before this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It suddenly makes you go, no, I miss more than anything, going to the beach, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you might have thought, oh, I'll miss, I don't know, something to do with like some kind of vacation in Rome. People aren't really missing that. They're missing the little things.
You want to know what I'm missing?
What?
I'm missing Trader Joe's.
I have Trader Joe's too.
I know. I miss picking out my own produce, but I really miss going to Trader Joe's because I haven't found grocery delivery from them. But you know what? I'm coping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using my creativity with the food that I get from other places. But it's really sad when you think those biscotti, but I can make them, or I can make something like them, or what can I create and what can I substitute? And this should be my biggest problem that I haven't been to Trader Joe's.
Yeah. If the biscotti problem is the biggest problem, awesome. That's good. Let's all have biscotti problems. Yeah.
We really should all have biscotti problems.
Yeah, that's it. That's just biscotti. Okay, and that's as bad as it's ever going to get,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, I wish everybody what you wish is biscotti is your biggest problem.
Right, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so what do you miss? I share.
Oh my God. What do I miss? Oh gosh. I miss things more actually for my kids, because for me, what I found out is I'm an introvert. I had no idea how I became one of those people that was like, yeah, maybe I'll never leave. This is okay. But my kids are 15 and 19. And whereas my age, every day can be the same if I wanted to. And 15 and 19, there is only one sophomore dance and only one junior year of college and only one this and only one that. And I wish, they could both get back to school as usual, because there's so much to offer and so much that they enjoy, that when it's safe. I'm not saying that right now.
That's so sad.
I know.
But what I'm really interested in seeing is, the kids who are the teens now.
Yeah.
What they're going to create.
Hopefully a better world.
Well, we can hope.
Yeah.
But because we view it as, I guess we're adults, right?
I don't know. Don't tell anybody.
Okay, I won't tell if you won't.
Okay.
Okay, viewers, don't tell anybody. I still think we're teenagers. Apparently we're not. It's okay.
Faking being adults, but yeah.
But and the same thing with me. I am like the biggest extrovert I know, and I've been totally fine with this because I've had a connection to the outside, and it's given me more opportunities, not less, to see people.
Right.
So it's great. But if you think about, okay, what are adults creating? But the kids, the teens, the young adults, they're going to have a completely different perspective on what they can do to change things up, to create solutions. So I'm going back to this question.
Sure.
And people, if you're watching, feel free to chime in. In what ways or how can people incorporate more creativity into their life?
I mean, we've talked about so many different things that you can kind of brainstorm in the moment. Mm-hmm. I would say that I don't know. I think not only should you go with whatever's in your imagination, but you should go with whatever you're in the mood to create that day. I think sometimes people torture themselves with, I should be writing my novel and I'm not writing my novel. And then all they're doing is now having another source of stress because they're not doing the creativity they want. Well, okay, what do you actually feel like doing? What you mentioned with cooking, or or just coming up with a new way to parent, or just a fun way to cut a corner is equally creative. So I would just say dig into whatever you're kind of in the mood to create in that moment. Eventually, all these things actually may land in one project. So you have to listen to your creative instincts, I think, not just torture yourself with your novel you're not writing.
Well, it really does go back to your project should be fun, especially if you're being creative, it should be fun. But I love that, and it's why it's always good to have multiple projects you're working on anyway. And some can be like projects, and others can be like arts and crafts sorts of things, cooking, gardening. I think I mentioned them both because, apparently I love to cook. Who knew? It's just a matter of tapping into the things that make you happy. And even if you give yourself a creative break every day, 5-10 minutes, allowing yourself to play and explore, I think is going to make a huge difference.
Also what I found too, I don't know if you found this, is if your body clock has you up until 4 a.m, okay, and you are creative up until then and you sleep till noon, or opposite, you find yourself getting up at 4 a.m. and then crashing at 8, it may just be how you are more creative and more productive. And because there isn't a school to go to, or maybe a job that you maybe 9 to 5 have to check into, that's interesting. Instead of fighting that, what are your most productive hours? And this is turning us all into sort of, nocturnal weirdos, right? But sometimes you just wake up then, and what was keeping you from creating before was the fact that you're actually really a night person, or you're really a morning person. I have a 15-year-old who, at first I was like, go to bed. And then she'd end up staying up late, and I'd wake up in the morning and there'd be butterflies hanging from her ceiling, or a collage of things on her wall. And I just realized she just needed some quiet alone time, and she would just do these weird things at night. Like, all right, that's okay. This is, why should I get in your way? If this is actually making you into a more creative person right now.
I love that. So you need to listen to yourself, and if you've got older kids, listen to them.
Yeah.
Give yourselves opportunities to be creative. And you talked about morning pages before, and the artist way is one of the things with my book. I'm like, if you liked our artist way, you'll love
right,
because a lot of the brainstorming principles. But morning pages don't need to be in the morning. Your creative time is when you feel excited and enthusiastic, and when you're going to be at your best.
Right.
And listen to yourself. And it goes back to what we were talking about before. Do you force yourself to be creative, or do you just be creative like when the spirit hits you? I think it's almost a combination of both. Yes, you want productive creative time, but you also want to be like, okay, I'm inspired, I'm going to go do this thing and eat dessert first as much as humanly possible.
I love eating dessert first. I have that's going to be my third book. It's going to be called Dessert First. I really believe in that, actually. Do the fun stuff, and then you'll be in a good mood to do the work.
Because so much of what's going on right now isn't fun. But if you do the fun stuff, that fun will kind of leak over into the other parts of your life.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Pilar, this has been so awesome. So I put your link on thepage.tv. Where else can people find you?
Really, everything is there. I've been stepping up the online classes for obvious reasons. So I'm in the middle of the TV class right now, but the feature class will start August 8th. And that's 4 classes that take you from idea you'll get pretty deep into your first draft in 4 weeks. So I would love to work with anybody out there that's interested.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, well, they can find you on the page, also on Instagram as well.
Right.
And if people want to find me, I'm at The Deb Method everywhere, thedebmethod.com. And if you'd like to learn more about your goal guide, just go to yourgoalguideroadmap.com. And okay, we cannot finish off until we give like a bonus goal project. So
Oh,
what's a good creativity project?
oh, darn it. Go. Okay. A good bonus goal project that's also fun, because of course as a screenwriter I'm like, write your log line, but instead I guess what I would say is that thing you've been kicking around that might be a script, I want you to write your favorite scene right now. All you have to ask is, are you inside or outside? Where are you? What time of day is it? That's your slug line. Come right up on what is happening in the moment. Okay, that's your action. Okay, and then what would naturally, organically come out of people's mouths considering what is happening and who they are. That's your scene. Write that, and then see where it takes you. You might write up to it or after that, but write your favorite scene.
Okay, and I'm going to give a modification for the non-screenwriters.
Okay.
Write the scene that you want to be in right now with your life.
Ah.
So write the scene that you want for your script, or write the scene you want for yourself. And just take a little bit of time. That's your gift this week, is the time to write the life you want.
So you'll be in Trader Joe's, right? You'll write a scene about you in Trader Joe's just shopping.
You know, it's really funny. Unless the conversation comes up, I really don't dwell on it so much. Like I said, as an extrovert, I've really embraced my relationships with me and the world from here. And it's well, like with you. See, there's my traffic.
Now they're coming for you.
Now
there you go.
For, like you, we're fortunate. We get to teach from the comfort of our homes.
Yes.
And my goal is just to help everybody succeed fulfilling the life they want, as you do with your screenwriters and TV writers. So if you're watching and you need a fun burst of creativity, write the life you want, or write the scene you want your characters to go through. And thank you again, Pilar, so much for joining us today as we talked about creativity. You can catch me next and every Sunday at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Pacific time on Twitter for Goal Chat. And I will be back here next Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific for Goal Chat Live with another amazing guest. In the meantime, connect with Pilar, connect with me, and go out and do something fun and creative for yourself and your characters, and let us know how it goes.
Thank you, Deb.